What is going on, guys? Welcome back to part 15 of building the Instagram app series. We're going to pick up exactly where we left off with our feed and designing these cells, basically. Make sure you destroy the like button, hit subscribe while you're at it, and let's dig in. So we already had these cells created for the post screen in the 2 videos ago in the past. So we now hooked it up with our feed, but we need to actually create the subviews so these cells actually look good. So we're going to do them one by one. So let's go under our views, cells, and home feed and post folder. And the first one we're going to do is feed post table view cell. So this basically represents, if I'm not mistaken, the actual post primary content is what we said. So let's go add a doc string and say cell for primary post content. And essentially this needs to be able to show either a video playing or it needs to be able to show a image view basically. So we have configure here. So we're going to say configure with post. And this is going to take a user post. And what we're going to go ahead and do is we want to create a image view. So we're going to say private let post image view is a UI image view in here. And we're going to say it's an image view. We'll say UI image view. We're going to, for now, say the content mode is going to be scale. Let's put parentheses here so the autocomplete decides to work. But it's going to be scale aspect fill. We're going to say that it has no background color, which I believe is nil by default, but we'll be explicit about it. And we're going to go ahead and return it. Next up, we want to add it as a subview to the content view. So go ahead and add that. And let's see, in layout subviews, we're going to say the size of it is the entirety of the content view. And then we also want to implement prepare for reuse. Is this one right here. Go ahead and call super on it. And we're simply going to nil out the image if one is set. If it's already nil, we'll still call this code, but essentially nothing is going to happen. And that takes care of the image. So in our configure function, we're going to say switch on post dot. I believe there's a type on here, post type. And in the case of a video, we want to basically show, rather in the case of a photo, we want to show the image. Otherwise, we want to load and play video. So cool, let's go into this user post and see what else we've got going on in here. So we have a post and a video we can get from the type. And we don't want to show the thumbnail image. We want to actually show the post URL. So the post URL per our comment here is either the URL to the video or it's the full resolution photo, which we spelled incorrectly. So let's do that. So what I'm going to say for now, we'll write out the code, but I'm going to comment it out so we can just test it. But what we're going to say in here is image view dot image, and this should be actually post image view dot image is a UI image named, and I think we have a named image called test in our XE assets that we brought in that we've been using to test out our app. So if we find our XE assets, let's see where I put it. I think I put it under resources maybe. Looks like it's not under here. Let's find that XE assets. There it is. We have this test image in here, so we should be able to see that. But in the case of a photo, we want to use SD web image, which is a framework that we brought in to load images. We are going to say post image view SD set image with a URL, and the URL is going to be post dot what did we call it? Post URL, and completed is going to be nil. And then for a video, this one is a little more interesting. We essentially want to set up a AV player. So we need to import AV Foundation, which is Audio Video Foundation. And we're going to create a private var player on here. which is going to be a AV player. The other thing that we want to go ahead and do is we're going to set up a player layer. So let's go ahead and create a private var player layer, which is going to be a AV player layer, optional. And we're going to say the player layer. So we're going to say content view dot layer, and we're going to add a sublayer. And actually, we can just go ahead and create this like that. Is going to be this sublayer. And let's see, we also want to give this guy a frame. So we are going to say in layout subviews, the frame of this is content view.bounds. Notice that we added the layer before we add the post image view. That's important, and you want to make sure you add the layer first. And let's see, the player here is AV player optional. So in the video case, we're going to say the player equals AV player. And you are going to open this up and use the one with a URL. And this is going to be post.post URL. And we can now say is player layer dot player is our player. And we're going to say player layer dot player. The volume by default is going to be 0. So we don't hear audio as we are scrolling through our feed. So on Instagram, you can actually tap the video once and the audio turns on or off. And then finally, we're going to automatically play the player's contents by saying player.play. So that's what we want to do for the video case. So go ahead and hit Command B. Should be building. And let me just type a return here. That way we won't actually go down to this code. So for our testing case, we should just see an image view. So go ahead and run, and we should see our test image showing up. Okay, so it looks like we don't. So something is not working. So I think we're not actually calling this configure function. So let's go back to our home feed view controller. And in cell for row for the post here, let's go ahead and say cell.configure and go ahead and pass in that post. And hit Command R one more time. And awesome. So we have our image showing up. Looks like it's taken up the whole screen or the whole image view as we want it to. So I am going to go back to the cell that we were just in. Let's go ahead and get rid of the background color here. And the other thing I'm going to do is on this image view, we're going to say clips to bounds, so it doesn't overflow any of its content of the image. So awesome. So that one's looking good. Let's jump into the header and do that one next. So the header cell right below it here. So we're going to also get rid of the background color here. And we're going to want to configure this with a model. And the model for this, I believe what we have in our home view controller, for the header case, we get a user object. So we're going to say configure with model, and the type is going to be a user. And we also are going to want to override prepare for reuse, similar to how we did it in the last cell. And let's create our subviews. So what does a header have in it? So a header has basically 3 things: an image view here for their profile picture, the label for their username, and then like a button here for some options. So it's like 3 dots usually, but we'll see what image we're going to use. So we're going to create those 3 subviews. So profile photo image view is going to be a UI image view. And we're going to add our parentheses here so autocomplete decides to be helpful. So we're going to return the image view. We're going to say eclipse to bounds. Now we're going to make the image view here a circle. So we're going to also want to, on the layer, say masks to bounds, which is true. And we're also going to say the content mode of this guy is going to be scale aspect fill. And the next thing we're going to want to add is a label. So it's going to be a username label and a UI label. And basically in here, we can go ahead and create a UI label and return it. To make sure the color is appropriate in dark mode, we can see the text color. The text color is .label, which is a semantic color that adjusts based on light mode and dark mode. We are also going to say label.number of lines is 1. Label.font is going to be a system font of size, let's say 18. And weight is going to be, I believe semi-bold should be enough. Let's do medium actually. Let's see what that looks like. So it's a little bolded. And the last thing we want is a button. So we're going to say rather private let, and this is going to be more button. And we're going to create a button in here. We're going to return said button. And let's see what else we want to do in this button. So we are going to say button dot tint color is going to be label. And we're going to say button we want to set an image basically. So let's go ahead and set an image to this button. And we're going to say for normal state, and the image is going to be a UI image. And we're going to use a system name. So go ahead and open up SF Symbols. If you don't have the app, you can Google SF Symbols, and there's a website download link on Apple's developer websites. And we basically want to find the 3 dots, which I think is called more. So it's called ellipses actually. So let's go ahead and Command Shift C to copy the actual name of this, and go ahead and paste that in here, and that'll set the image. And let's see what else do we want to do. So we now want to add all these subviews. So the first one is going to be the profile photo. The next one's going to be the username label, and the last one will be the more button. We also want to say on the button that something happens when the user taps it. So we're going to call a function did tap button for touch up inside. And let's go ahead and create that function here. And basically, we're going to use the delegate pattern to let our view controller know that the button was tapped so the controller can handle it. So we'll do that in a second. Now, configure with. This one is going to be fairly simple. We're going to say username label.text is model.username. And the image view is going to be, I think there's a model.profile picture. Yep, profile photo, which is a URL. So we're going to, again, import SD web image. And we are going to say in here, profile photo, sd.sd, set image with the URL, completion is nil. For now, let's go ahead and comment this out, and we're simply going to set a standard image to this. So we'll say the image is a UI image system name person.circle. Once we have all of Firebase hooked up, we can uncomment all of this and you'll see real content coming down from the database. And let's see, we want to lay it out, but we also are going to want to reset each of these and prepare for reuse. So for each of these, you want to nil out the content that you've assigned, like so. And in here, we want to lay out each of these subviews. So first one, we're going to say we want to get the size of the image view we're going to have. And that's going to basically be content view dot height subtracting 4. So we're going to say the profile image views frame is a CG rect 2 size and size. So it's a square by default. Then we're going to set its corner radius so we can round it. And that's going to basically be size over 2, which will be a circular image. Next up, we want to do our button. So I'm going to say the more buttons frame is going to be X, Y, width, and height. So we'll say for this 0, we'll just do 2 size and size. And this is going to be content view with subtracting size and subtracting 2. And finally, we're going to do the label. So the username label will be, again, a CG rect, and this is going to be the profile image, right, plus 10 for some buffer, 2 from the top. Height is going to be content view height, subtracting 4, so 2 buffer from the bottom as well. And the width is going to be content view width, subtracting size times 2 for the button as well as the image view. And we also want to subtract, I believe, 15 for some padding between all the contents. So basically some mental math here to figure out how things will be laid out. Let's run it and make sure things look correct. Again, we're going to need to call that configure function, but let's see where our button actually shows up. So our button shows up here, which I think we might want to move it over. So in the button, let's actually change the X to not subtract the 2 here. And let's go to our home view controller. And on the header cell, once again, you want to call configure and pass in the model, which is user. Now you want to hit Command R, and all right, cool. So looking better. So we've got Joe coming in here, which is the username. I don't know if the height is too high. I think the height might be too high, so we might want to adjust this. But for now, I think we're looking pretty good. So let me also change up the model so it's not just Joe. It should have a @ symbol. So username is Joe, so we're gonna say it's @Joe. Let's give it like a, I don't know, let's change up this. Let's say @Kanye West. And let's see what that looks like. Hit Command Shift A to change to light mode, and you notice that all the things are looking good in terms of coloring. So we're gonna stick with dark mode. Let's move on to the action button here, or action cell rather, post actions. So this is gonna essentially, actually before we even jump in here, one thing we forgot to do in here is implement the delegate. So I mentioned we have this button here. So we're gonna come up here and create a delegate. And it's gonna be a protocol. And it's gonna be the name of the cell delegate, any object. And I'm gonna go ahead and say did tap more button, passing in the model for the user. And actually right now we won't pass in any model. Let's just stick with this for now and make our life simple. Next up, we're gonna say weak var delegate is the type of our protocol. And in the button tap action, we're gonna say delegate did tap button. And if we come back to the home view controller, in the cell for row function, for our header, we can now say cell.delegate is self. And down here, we can extend this view controller. So we're gonna write extension on the home feed view controller and conform to that delegate. And we can say the basically we can print something out, but what we're actually going to want to do is show an action sheet. So I'm just going to create the action sheet already. So we'll just say an action sheet is a UI alert controller with a title, message, and style. So we're going to say post options nil, and this is going to be action sheet. We're going to add some actions in here, and after we added, we can present the action sheet animated true. So the first action we're going to want is a cancel action. So title will be cancel, style will be cancel, handler is nil. We're going to want maybe a option to report the post. So we're going to say report post. And style will be destructive, which is the red colored. And in here we can say underscore in weak self, so we don't cause a memory cycle. And we essentially now want to call a function to actually report the post. So we're going to say report post We're going to eventually want to pass in the post identifier, but for now, you can just do this. And let's go ahead and hit run. Let's see what that looks like. Let's just make sure our action sheet is showing up. So if we tap on any of these buttons, you can see this shows up. We can hit cancel, it dismisses. Hitting a report actually calls this function in which nothing is happening, but that's how we wire up that button. Let's go into the actions cell now. So this is going to also have a prepare for reuse, super prepare for reuse, and we're going to want 3 buttons in here. And the first one's going to be like button. And let's go ahead and create that. Let's return it. We're going to want to set an image to it, and it's going to be a system name for all of them. I think heart is the one we want in this case, and the tint color will be label. Once again, go ahead and copy and paste this twice. The second one is going to be comment button, and the third one will be send button, which is for Instagram DMs for direct messages. Now I mentioned I might not get to that in the series, but we're going to add the button either way. So the comment button, I believe there is an image called message and an image called send. And we want to add all of these to our content view. So like button, comment button, and send button, like so. We also want to add actions to each of these. So we're going to want 3 functions in here. Did tap like button. And let's change up the other names here. The next one is going to be did tap comment button. Last one will be did tap send button. And for each of these, we're going to attach an action. So we're going to say like button, add action. Self selector will be did tap like button for touch up inside. Go ahead and copy and paste that. Did tap comment button, did tap send button. This one will be send button, and this one will be comment button. We're going to want to delegate similar to what we did in the other cell. But for now, let's change this to be configure with post. So it takes in a user post, like so. We're going to leave this empty for a minute. We might come back to this later. In prepare for reuse, what we want to do for our like button, only that button, we want to reset it to the unliked state. I believe heart is a non-filled in heart, and heart.fill is the filled in state. So let's get rid of that virus pop-up. So we're gonna run it and see what it looks like. So before we do that, let's implement our layout subviews. The order of the button will be like, comment, and send from the left. So we're gonna say button size is content view height, subtracting, let's say 10. And let's see if we can get away with laying out the buttons in a for loop. So we're going to say buttons is a like button, comment button, and send button. And we're going to say for x in 0 to buttons.count, we're going to say the button is buttons x, and we're going to assign its frame. And the size is easy because we have button size here. So width and height, so we can just paste that guy in. Y is easy too. It's going to be 5 from the top since we're subtracting 10. And the x is going to be CG float of x, which is the x in our for loop here, multiplied by the button size. Put that in parentheses and add the buffer for each button, which we'll say is 10 to start off with, CG float of x. And I believe that should be good to go. Let's actually say this is x plus 1. So the first button has some buffer from the left. Go ahead and hit Command R. Let's see what this looks like. I have a feeling we'll have to tweak it a little bit. But let's see what we're working with. All right, cool. So we've got the like button, we've got the comment button, and it looks like we don't have the send button. So once again, go ahead and open up SF symbols, and let's look for send in here. So it looks like send, there is a paper plane and paper plane fill. So this is what we want actually, paper plane. And if we look up heart.fill, it's actually heart.fill is the one we want when the user has liked it. So what we've got now works perfectly. So let's change the image for send to paper plane, not paper line. And let me also drop the background color in here, so this can start looking more realistic. Go ahead and hit Command R. All right, looking good. So now that we have the buttons showing up, we want to hook them up to a delegate. So we already created the actions for each of these buttons. So what we want to now do is create the delegate. So again, it's going to be a protocol of type delegate and any object. And in here, we're going to say func did tap like button. And we're also going to say did tap comment button and did tap send button. And we can create an instance of the delegate on the class. So we're going to say weak var delegate is our new protocol type. And in the button tabs, we can say delegate did tap like button, delegate did tap comment button, and delegate did tap send button. And let's see, so now in our controller, in the home controller for the cell for row at index, if we pop back to that one, for actions, we can say before returning, cell.delegate is self. And again, we're going to extend this home view controller with that delegate. And we're going to say did tap like button, did tap comment button, did tap send button. And we're just going to print out for now since this video is almost at time and we can pick up in the next video. So if you go ahead and hit Command R and run it, you'll notice, let me actually clear out the console here. You can hit Command K and it empties it. If you hit the like button, notice you get like printed out, comment, and send. When we tap the like button, we should also change the state of the actual highlight of the image. And we'll also look at making these buttons a little larger. The button size is actually probably correct. We probably want to bump the image size. So that said, we can call it a wrap here. If you haven't liked the video already, make sure to do so. Make sure to comment with any questions if you have any. Hit subscribe if you haven't done that yet. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.